start in 2 minutes. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys quickly let me know if you can hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, Alizeh, just a minute.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great.
Okay, can you hear me?
Audio okay?
Yeah. Okay, from your side, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, sounds good, sounds good. So how are you, Alizeh? Thank you, first of all, for taking out the time.
Absolutely my pleasure. I'm so happy that you got in touch with me for such a great topic that I think we need to be talking more about.
Yeah, so I'll introduce Alizeh to my audience first. So basically, she's a college and career counselor, and she did her MSc in strategic marketing from Imperial College London, and she graduated. She is the founder of Be Guided Now. You guys should definitely go check out her Instagram page, and she offers academic, university, and career counseling to students and young professionals. And mashallah, her students have been accepted into the top 10 universities abroad. And her passion basically lies in helping students, they're finding their true passion in life. So that's my guest, Alizeh. And again, Alizeh, thank you for joining.
My pleasure.
So,
thank you again for that lovely intro, Sam.
Yeah, so I took a couple of queries. So first of all, I'll tell you why we're having this session. So I teach O-level math or an A-level math. So I get a lot of questions about students, whether what subjects they should pursue and what career choices do they have if they pursue a certain set of subjects. So, some I'm able to answer, some I'm not. So I thought I'll get a professional on board with me so that, I'm pretty sure since this is what you do, you will be able to answer these questions correctly. So we'll be taking questions live. Yeah, so we'll be taking questions live also. You guys can send in your questions live, but hold for that because I'm going to give priority to the questions that students send beforehand. But before we do that, Alizeh, I'd like to ask you a few things so that my audience can get to know you better. So first of all, why did you choose career counseling? I mean, of all the fields in the world, why choose career counseling?
So I'll be very honest with my answer. When I chose it, I don't think I had intentionally and strategically made a plan. It was very much certain one thing led to another. But one of the reasons that in hindsight that I look back, I chose career counseling because when I was a student myself and I did my undergraduate from Turkey and my master's in London, I came across diverse students, not just Pakistani students, just a lot of kinds of students. And I realized when I had conversations with them that our whole life we've been in school, we've been learning about subjects and about topics, which are in the classroom or in the textbook. But when it comes to applying that knowledge or our awareness of our environment, actually what careers are there, and if you compare that with an actual day in the life of a professional, that awareness of that practical day to day, what skill sets you need, what the scope is, was very weak. So I felt that, yes, it's important to study and it's important to apply to universities, but equally, if not more so, there needs to be awareness and a better set of environment for people to be able to understand what professional choices there are. And I thought that was lacking in our educational system, and not just private, public, both. We weren't talking enough about after studying, what would we do? What are the pros, cons? या कैसे decision लेनी है? What factors to look at? And how not
Agreed.
one size fits all, कि हर बंदे को engineer नहीं बनना, or we don't need to be a lawyer or a doctor. Being a social media manager has equal pride, but we don't know how to get there. So I think that was kind of the mindset that got me into career counseling.
No, I completely agree with the part that I think we really need to shift our mindset. Abhi bhi wahi daur hai, engineer, doctor, and a lot of people, I feel that they're doing it because they're not aware of the kind of careers that they can pursue these days. So yeah, I completely agree with that. And it's important to have counselors, especially in this day and age when you have like so many options to choose from. I mean, like you said, you can make a career out of social media marketing and whatnot. So yeah, I completely agree with that. Acha, so you mentioned that you did your undergrad from Turkey, right? So
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that journey of yours?
Sure. So I applied. I was actually in my high school, I think the second batch that went to Turkey. So there was very little awareness. I went to KGS and we didn't know too much about Turkey. And that was actually the year where Turkey became really popular because this Turkish show, Ishq-i Mamnu, had just come out. So we didn't know anything, but we knew about Behlul and we knew Istanbul is this beautiful city and everyone thought everyone speaks Urdu
What year
because it
was
was
this? What year was this?
2012. Um,
Okay.
and everyone thought everyone speaks Urdu there, everyone eats halal, all of that, right? So, in this midst of all these misconceptions, I went to Turkey. And much to my surprise, what I knew before going and what the reality was after going was so very different. Again, I think this was another reason why there was this light bulb moment where I realized, okay, wow, I wasn't prepared at all, or I hadn't done my research at all. So that's where I went. I actually got a scholarship, so I had to choose between LUMS and Turkey. And because of my scholarship, my financials were quite similar to LUMS and Turkey. And I wanted to study international relations, so I thought going into a unique city with a blend of East and West would be interesting. And interestingly enough, the Gezi, there was a revolution also erupted while I was there about journalism. So it was a great time to be there for international relations, but that was how I went to study to Turkey.
So what was it like living abroad? Doing all your stuff, and I'm sure that you stayed in a hostel or a dorm. So what was that like? Can you tell us your experience?
So Turkey, near the university I went to, it was a little outside the city, so we only had on-campus accommodation. So we had to stay on at the dorms for all 4 years. But in London, of course, it was different. So right now, I'll just talk about what it was to kind of live in Turkey. And a lot of students actually go to Turkey. So it's a great international opportunity. It's financially feasible. But the one thing to keep in mind is if you're going to Turkey and you want to maximize, your exposure and benefit, learn Turkish. I would even go as far as to start learning basic Turkish before you go. Because for you to be able to get internships or get jobs or socially make friends or settle in, the only key is learning their language. Their English competency level is not as high as that of the US, UK, Canada. So my life in Turkey was the way any student's life is. I was figuring out how to do my laundry, how to budget, how to live on pasta when I didn't have money at the end of the month, but my dad couldn't know that because where did that money go? It was learning a language. I had interestingly never taken O-level ad math or A-level math because I said I want to do politics and IR. I don't need math. And I go there and Cal 1 and Cal 2 is compulsory. And Cal 1 started from where A-level math ended. So I came back one winter and I did the A-level syllabus in 3 weeks. And I'm not even joking. AS and AT.
Wow.
And I ended up with a B in that calculus course, a B. So my first winter break back was घर पे एक सर आते थे, फिर मैं शाम में I would go to his tutoring center. So my first winter back from college was about a crash course in A-level math.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's actually a surprise. I mean, 3 weeks and you did AS and A2.
And I got a B in that course, which I'm very, very.
Yeah, I know. Calwan is. I mean, even the ones who have done A-level math, उनके भी पसीने छूट जाते हैं. So I can't even imagine क्या हाल है.
Yeah. So another thing, if you're applying to Turkey, do look at उनका curriculum क्या है. A lot of them in year 1 will make you study compulsory courses, and it's really important you see what your background is because you can't always go there and pick up things. So just be a little mindful.
Yeah, true. So, Charan, let's. I have a couple of questions from a couple of them are my students. A couple of them follow me on YouTube. So the first question we have is from Anusha, and she was actually a student of mine from O levels, a very bright student, mashallah. So her question is: will it be an advantage for a CV or resume by applying to abroad universities and getting an acceptance, even if we have no plans to join that uni? So that's her first question. And her second question is there a scope of psychology in Pakistan, or is it a better option to pursue something else as a career and then take psych as a side career? So you want me to repeat the first question?
Can I answer the second one first and then I'll ask you to repeat the first one?
Yeah, sure.
So psychology as a career in Pakistan and actually globally too is in terms of demand very much on the rise because I think a lot of us are realizing the importance of mental health and emotional wellness and that it's no longer a taboo. So more people feel comfortable and confident to get support and professional help. And there's also an increased desire for the research in this field, not just the practice of it. So whether you want to go into psychology research, work in a lab, or you want to actually be a professional, you want to go into psychiatry or even therapy, it is a great option for anyone in Pakistan, especially on the therapy practice of it. We have boards such as CPPD, Therapy Works, and a lot of people are actually getting certified. And from a commercial standpoint, these are careers where there's a good financial return too. Not saying that this should be the only thing one must look at, but if we are looking at career scope, of course, the financial feasibility has to be there. So psychology is very great as a career to be getting into. Can you repeat her first
Achha, one
question?
thing. Yeah, I'll get to her first question. But before that, I have a question of my own. To pursue a career in psychology, is it like absolutely necessary to have psychology in
No, not
A-levels?
at all. No. It's like you don't need law to study law. And a lot of universities actually prefer कि आपकी foundation ना हो because they want to be the ones making that foundation for you. So no, there's no need that you need it. Having said that, if you are applying to some places like the UK, they might be looking for your O-level English language to at least be a B. Now this is a little nuanced thing, but social science may English language O level you must have a B if you're applying competitively, and if you're applying for engineering or mathematics or finance or economics, then O level math may your B increases your chances.
All right. Okay, so can we come to your first question, which is, do you want me to read it out again?
Yes, please.
Will it be an advantage for a CV or resume by applying to abroad universities and getting an acceptance, even if we have no plans to join them?
Very interesting question. Never been asked that, never thought of that. So I will be thinking on my feet. I think it really depends on who you're looking to impress. If you are applying for, let's say, working in a university for a job, yes, they would like that you are aware of the application process or you had that competency. But if you're applying for a corporate job, the fact that you've been accepted but you didn't go there, but you're mentioning that, तो वो gray area भी हो सकता है. So, I mean, it really varies.
I mean, they can ask you
Wow,
why you
sorry,
didn't
this
go, right?
just broke. This is never broken. 1 second. I knew something like this was going to happen today. 1 second, sorry. So my ring light just broke and this is really creepy lighting, but I'll fix it. Okay, I think this can do. I had a feeling something was going to go wrong today. It literally came to pieces, by the way. Okay, I think we can do. I will adjust the lighting. Yes, go on.
Yeah, it's fine.
So it really depends on where you're applying. But just make sure if you haven't attended it, you don't write it as part of your education like you're attending it. You have to be very transparent about that.
Take it. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a couple of live questions also simultaneously, because I don't want that by the time we get to live questions, we lose them. So we have a question from Adil, and the question is, what is the right time to give SATs?
Okay, great question. Because the SAT is so important if you're applying for scholarships, especially to the US and Turkey, and of course also for acceptances. The best time to take it is twice in your AS. And twice because it's very rare that in our first go we reach our target score.
Yeah.
Because the competency or this, what they're looking for in the SAT is very different to how you do well in your O and A level. It's a different style of testing, different curriculum, and a different entire objective of the exam. So take it twice in your AS because that leaves you time to work on your other aspects of your application in A2, such as your essays and your extracurricular activities. And it should only be taken in the A2 if you really want to improve your score. Otherwise, it's something you should do early on, especially for those who want to apply early to the US, because that deadline is in November.
All right. Asha, back when I was teaching SAT, so they had this thing that if you give it twice, they would take the best of the two scores. So is that still there?
It varies. There's some universities where they do a super score, where they're even nicer, where they say out of however many times you've taken it, we'll take the best scores from each. Some of them say we'll only look at your recent one. some of them say we will look at all. So the policy varies, and it has to be done on a case by case depending on your university list.
Alright, sounds good. All right, so we have the next question. Is it good to have combination of law, sociology, and psychology? So I'm assuming this is probably an A-level student. So how good is a combination of sociology, psychology, and law?
Did they particularly mention for what career, or they didn't mention that?
I didn't mention that.
Law, sociology, psychology is a very strong social science oriented subject combination. If you want to study politics, IR, sociology, psychology, it's very good. Even history. So anything social science oriented, it's very good because clearly you're good at reading, writing, analyzing, critically assessing texts, and writing strong structured essays. But social science is something you should be more, or liberal arts. These two are a good combination for these two majors.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's take a question from. So this is Umema Farooq, and she says that I have heard that if you want to run a business, you don't necessarily have to choose business subjects. It is better to take subjects in which you want to do the business. And people who want to do jobs like being an accountant, then it is fine to take business subjects. So what are your views on it? So basically, कहना चाह रही हैं कि अगर आप अपना family business चलाना चाह रहे हैं, so it's not important. Yeah, if you're trying to run a business, it's not important to choose business subjects. I mean, these are something that I think that you can learn on the go. But and then she says that and people who want to do jobs like being an accountant, then it is fine to take business subjects. So what are your views?
I think aajkal many would agree that whatever per se what your major is, you don't end up necessarily sticking to that field. Everything's very fluid. Actually, in our age group, people are expected to change 7 to 9 roles across their life. And 3-4 years back, I thought that was quite unrealistic. But now I'm seeing that people want to be more cross-functional. They pick up skills and they see it can be applied in many settings. I personally don't think you need to study business. I've seen many people do well in business without it. Does it help? Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. Of course, you get the tools, the frameworks, you have a good foundation. So it's a matter of you don't need it, yes. Does it help? Yes, it does. But it shouldn't limit you. If you haven't studied business, if you've studied engineering and you want to open a business, it shouldn't keep you or hold you from not opening one. But if you are doing business and you think your one area is lacking and you do want to study further, then doing a specialized degree will help you. I didn't study business in my undergrad. I did IR and politics, which is very social science. But when I actually studied strategic marketing and when I actually run this business, I think 65% of it I can do because I've studied business. So it does help. It does, for sure. But it shouldn't be the only thing that should be holding you back from starting a business. Start it, figure out what your weaknesses are, and pick up a specialized program. Another thing, you don't need to do a master's. You could do a short course in the area you think you're weak in. So you can study, you don't need a particular degree in business.
All right. Okay, so we have another question is that which A-level subjects are compulsory to become an actuary?
To become a?
Actuary.
Oh, okay. So I can tell you that maths and further maths should be the most important. Definitely. These are the crux of it. So I guess, yeah, you're the right person for that. The specific subjects vary on what university and what country. This is not something I can generalize because this program has very specific requirements. But if there's one thing you have to be super bad, for sure math and further math should be your best friend forever for you to even think of going into this.
True. Okay, we have another question, which is what factors should we consider before applying abroad?
Good question. First of all, I love talking about finances and affordability and cost of attendance. Unfortunately, this tends to be one of the last things जिससे disappointment होती है. So I like to be realistic. You need to know what your budget is that's comfortable for you and your family, not where you're selling your lifetime assets, which is comfortable, keeping your parents, lifetime retirement, siblings, all of that. What's that amount that's comfortable? Now, in that, when, for example, I'm giving you an example that's, 10 rupees. Now, within that 10 rupees, you need to see what countries are actually feasible in that amount. So that's the first thing. Start with finances and base your country based on what you can afford, what falls in that category. The second thing you should keep in mind is deadlines, because when you know deadlines, you know when to start. And when I say deadlines, I don't mean very close. I think at least a year before your application is when you should start. Thirdly, look at requirements. Do they require the SAT, the GRE, GMAT, or the IELTS? Test taking is really important. And the last thing you should think of when applying abroad is the major that you're applying for. Do you like the way they teach it over there? In the UK, it's specialized. If you're applying for law, all 3 years, you'll only study law. However, in the US, if you apply for law, or let's say anything, the first 2.5 years, you study a lot of things and then you specialize. So I think these are the rough 4 to 5 things to think of when applying abroad.
On top of that, you would say it's a budget, right?
I would say the first and last thing has to be the budget. You need to know what you can comfortably afford and what lies in that. Of course, you can then say, okay, I can't afford it, but I'll apply for a financial aid or a scholarship. But still, despite that, you should still apply to places where if you get no funding, you should be able to go, whether that's Karachi to Lahore even.
Okay. Right. So we have another question from Raza. It's a very long question. We'll try and narrow it down. So he says, my name is Raza and I'm currently enrolled at O3 and will appear for my CIs in July-August series. I have taken admission at a prestigious A-level college in my city, Islamabad, and my classes will start from 4th of August. However, I'm a bit confused regarding my subjects. I want to either pursue law or actuarial science in the future. Since law has no prerequisites, I am solely basing my subjects on the requirements of for actuarial sciences. Till now, I've thought about taking math and further maths, economics, and English literature. Are these subjects a good choice for the careers I'm choosing? What are the changes I should make in this subject combination?
So what were his subjects again? Further math and?
Economics and English literature.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting combination.
That's quite a contrast. He wants to study law or actuarial, so that's like two ends of the spectrum. I think more than worrying about the subject combination, there needs to be, he could maybe do a little more exploration and be more aware of what actually the two entail, careers in both of them, right? So a good way to do it, look at 2 universities that offer law and actuarial science and go through their modules and course descriptions. Go through their faculty, look at their research interests, read testimonials of people who've studied and their career journeys and where they're working. That's step 1. Step 2, he should read more about both like the careers in both the fields, and maybe the ideal thing is to speak to professionals in both the fields. When he does these 3 things, I think 60% he will be pretty clear on what's not for him. So what's easier for us to know is what we don't like. It's harder to figure out what we like, but through that process of elimination, he will know if, maybe his subjects are fine for both, but maybe actual science, what he thought and what it actually is, whether what he'll be studying and what he'll be working in might be very different. So I would suggest that he does these 3 steps and he himself will be at a point of greater clarity of which one's right for him.
All right. Yeah, one thing that I would like to mention here is that I think a lot of queries of students will be answered if they actually open the website of the university that they plan to apply to and see what their requirements are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I completely agree with that.
And then a lot of people say, oh, but I don't know which university to look at, right? So the solution for that is, if you're whatever country you're thinking of, look at 3 to 4 different universities, and very soon after, you'll see a commonality. So it doesn't really matter specifically which one. Look at 3, 4, the pattern will be in front. But independent research, like you said, there's no alternative. No teacher, no counselor can be the alternative for your research. You can ask questions, but you'll be the one studying there. So jo sahi time pe sahi research hai, that's actually the key.
Agreed. Okay, so we have a question which is how to make this year productive while doing A2 and studying for AS.
I think this is one of those years where I genuinely do feel bad for students starting A2 in July. It couldn't be worse. Candidly saying there's a lot that they'll have to do. But there's still time if they start utilizing their time well right now. There's still time. So this month is all for start writing your essay drafts. Once school starts, of course, focus on your school grades. We don't know with 100% certainty if October, November will happen or not, right? We're hoping. So you don't
Yeah,
know how important your class, little quizzes, little class attendance becomes in the predicted grade formula. So start doing everything right now. Don't wait for the first week of July to start anything. And essays is one thing which takes a lot of time for most people. So don't wait till the end. Start working on your essays. Treat everything, every classwork like it's the CIE. Everything adds up in the end in times of uncertainty. So don't lose hope. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't worry. I personally don't think this is the year where we need to be setting unrealistic expectations of, oh, I have to go to Yale or I need to get that A star. This is not that year. This is the year, how can we survive and stay afloat and take care of our mental health and emotional health. There's
agreed,
no
agreed.
point getting into a great university but being a very, very unhappy within. So have set your priorities right. Start working little actions, little goals from day one, and inshallah, over a long period of time, in the next 6 months, it will pay off.
All right, here's another interesting question from Michelle, and she says, "How often students come to you who are unsure that what exactly they want to do, and what advice you give to them to tackle this problem?" I'm sure this happens a lot. Like, I'm sure there must be students who want to apply abroad, who want to get that experience, but they're unsure of what are the opportunities abroad, what university to apply to, like you said. So I think that's an interesting question. So how exactly do you tackle this problem? How exactly do you like narrow it down and show them a path?
I actually think 99%, okay, that's a bit much, maybe 90% who come to me are pretty unsure about one thing or the other. And that one thing that they're unsure about, they're very unsure. Whether it's where to apply, what to study, or how to go about it. And even though the number's so high, when I speak to the students, I feel that they feel that it's only them who's super confused and clueless. And one of the first things I tell them is, no, you're in the majority. No one has it figured out. They make it seem like that, but you're fine to feel the way you're feeling. So maybe get a little comfortable with this feeling of fear of the unknown or just a lot of uncertainty. And when students like that come to me, more than rankings, requirements, and grades, I ask them things about themselves. Because self awareness is key. Knowing yourself really well is the most important thing. And it's not about the A's and B's, it's about what environments make you happy, right? If you had a day where you do nothing, what activity makes you feel proud of yourself? What kind of topics make you feel confident or make you feel fulfilled, like you're having a positive impact in your life? So it's conversations about you and getting to know yourself better, which actually help you get to know your choices about your future better, whether it's choosing the right career, whether it's subject combination, or how high you want to, how ambitious your university list is. So how I go about it is I ask guided conversation. I get to get themselves to know themselves better. And somewhere over a few sessions, answers start coming up.
So the sessions that you hold, they're online also, right? I mean,
For
you do
this year,
have
yes.
Yeah, because I'm sure a lot of students may not be able to access you physically, and especially I think during these COVID times, uh, I'm sure that a lot of students would like to get in touch with you and would like your advice. So you do online sessions, right?
Yeah, so I actually was doing everything in person for the last 2 years, but when COVID in March, I went completely digital, completely online. I do my sessions over Zoom. And I am really missing, of course, meeting my clients, their parents, because there's no alternative to that.
Agreed.
But at least we have this going. I'm so grateful for technology in this sense because at least it's the safest way. Even right now, actually, I'm really unwell. I've gotten vaccinated, but today I just have a really sore throat and fever. But I'm glad that I'm getting it's because of, I guess, in person nahi that I can even do this right now. But we're all making do. I'm sure you too, right? You probably miss your students, and there's nothing like
Yeah, definitely.
in person.
There's no nothing like teaching. with the students in front of you. But this is something that it's something we have to live with, and
Yeah.
so and people are getting used to it. So I mean, there's no
And it's
the sooner
affecting
the things get
everyone.
better, yeah, definitely, yeah.
It's a matter of time. I
Achha,
think things will get better, but for now, we just need to kind of make do and kind of look on the positive side and get on with it.
definitely. So this is a question that I would like to ask. How has like COVID affected admissions abroad? Has it had? I mean, impact wise, has there been an impact? Has there been? I think there was a point that universities stopped taking admissions at all, and some of them, like even I think LUMS, yeah, it was LUMS. LUMS said that they're gonna be they're shifting completely online till there's like a vaccine. So what about what has it been like with universities abroad?
Acceptances have been this year quite arbitrary. Like the impact, in some ways, so many students got extensions. For example, deadlines were extended. GRE, SAT was waived off. So for some, this time was a bit of a blessing. It became easier for people. However, for some, the fact that things are online, it's harder to convince parents that it's the right return on investment or that it's worth it going abroad. So the
Yeah.
impact has been quite hard to generalize. But overall, last year and this year, I've seen that admission officers have been mindful of that, and I've seen people with weaker grades get into places where they wouldn't usually. So I've seen that admissions this year was slightly easier on the students than usual non-COVID times.
All right. All right. Okay. So next question is from Zain. He too, by the way, is a student of mine, and he has actually three questions. So I'll ask them one by one. So I'll start with the more general question: is that how important are extracurricular activities in international placements?
Okay, they're so important. They are probably the biggest thing that make you from come across from a student as a person, right? Student for your grades speak for you and your recommendations, but who are you as a person? What's your story? What makes you unique? And what will you bring to the classroom at that university is your extracurriculars. They're so important. And my only key tip over here is be authentic in your extracurriculars. Don't do a jala or any community service because it looks good. Don't do that. Do anything that you're genuinely passionate about, even if it's writing a blog about nail polishes. Just make sure you're passionate about it because that comes through in essays. So it's really important, but be real with your choice of extracurriculars.
And what are the essays usually about? Like when you're applying to universities, or it varies from. I'm sure it varies from university to university, but like there's a I don't know कि किस हद तक ये सही है कि स्टूडेंट से कि जी हमने अपना एसे या पर्सनल स्टेटमेंट जो है वो किसी से लिखवा लिया या स्टफ लाइक दैट
Yeah.
or she wrote a personal statement and
Yeah.
उसकी वजह से एडमिशन हो गया. So how true is that? I mean,
अच्छा, अब इसमें दो चीजें, एक तो किस तरह के essays होते हैं and if people get them written or not. Mostly there are three kinds of essays. The first one is they ask you to talk about yourself, your interests, what your passion is, what your inspiration is, what your weakness and strength is. The second kind of essay is what kind of a relationship do you have with your community and environment. How do you interact with them? And the third one is why are you interested in this major? What are your career and future plans? These are overall three kinds of essays that you'll always write in universities. Now, do people get them written? Unfortunately, with a heavy heart, yes. I genuinely think this is one of the saddest things adults are doing to teenagers or people applying, because you see, the problem with this is more than it being unethical. When you write something for someone, you're assuming and accepting that the student doesn't have the capability to do it, and you're robbing them of a lifelong talent. So unfortunately, it's happening. We're setting the wrong precedent. So when these people grow up and think this is the norm, then our society, the overall impact, snowball effect it'll have is so negative. And then we are to blame because they're still malleable and we're telling them that this is okay or money can buy these things. So yeah, that's my official public statement about essays getting written.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And again, it's just sad to know that people are manipulating these kids and telling them कि हाँ भाई ऐसे लिखवा लो, your chances of getting an admission into a university abroad will increase. So yeah, I agree with that, and definitely it's going to have a snowball effect. Maybe we're seeing it already, or I don't know, we'll see it in the next couple of years. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. All right. So his other question is: are there subjects which are preferred by foreign universities? If yes, which are they? I mean, any subjects that have extra credits. This is something that we used to hear a lot in when I was in O levels and A levels. Oh, don't take the subjects. This doesn't have a lot of credits, or oh, you should take the subjects. This has a lot of credits. So is there like a proper document for that? That okay, these are the subjects and they have this many credits. So I think that's a good
Um,
question.
we use, yeah, that's quite interesting. We used to hear further maths is preferred by Oxford, Cambridge, and then mm, general perspectives, research, GPR. It's for really smart kids.
Mm,
Accounting is or business studies is really like looked down upon. You see,
yeah.
it really depends on where you're applying because it varies in that. If you apply to the US, it really doesn't matter. But in the UK, yes, there are times where it's given a precedence or not. The main thing to look for is if you're applying for something, do they require you to have a certain subject? Like if you're applying for management or economics in the UK, you need A level maths, right? That's one thing. That's what you should be looking at. The second thing you should be looking at is do they require a certain minimum grade in your O level? Like I earlier said, you might need a B in English or a B in math. So these two things are things you should be looking at. Not per se is there, because there's no one document which applies to every university. But what does matter is what you're applying for, what requirements they have, and if you meet them O level onwards.
True. Okay, we have another question from Suhaima, and her question is: what's a better option between global perspective, English language, and English general? And she's an A level student, so these are definitely A level
So
subjects.
her first one is GPR, right?
Global perspective.
Yeah, so GPR, um, English general or English language. So global perspectives is usually, at least when I was in my A levels, it wasn't even offered to everyone. I don't know if this
Yeah,
was just the policy of my high school or this was Cambridge's policy, but it was only offered to students who had a certain number of A's or above because it was supposed to be more difficult or it was a lot of coursework. English general, everyone had to do it. I still don't understand why they made us do English general. I think I learned nothing from it. I
yeah.
wish I could take
GP. They used to call it general paper back in my time. I'm sure in your days also.
in for my school it was GPR was general perspective research, global perspective research, sorry, and then general English general was called general, and then English language was never offered in my school. So I think this is
Yeah,
something new. But if you're going for something research oriented, something very social science, and you're aiming high in your university list, if it's ambitious, then I think GPR should be your best bet.
GPR. Okay,
Yeah.
so fine. What subjects do I take in A levels if I would like to go for political science?
Um, Literature, history, sociology, economics. That's a good something. Psychology, something from these.
Literature. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? Literature,
Sure.
history.
Literature, history, sociology, economics, and I'm forgetting one. Literature, history, sociology, and psychology.
Economics. Doesn't economic like stand out over here? How does?
So when you study politics, a lot of it is international relations too. And within international relations, a big component is always
Yeah.
economics for you to understand international trade or even international organizations. So if you get too social sciencey, you still need something a little more, not quantitative, but a little more statistics oriented, or a little, you need to counter that with understanding how global things work, macroeconomics really work within politics. So economics might be a little surprising, but it helps you have that number ability and analytic quantitative ability when you do IR as part of politics.
So another question from Jaisha, and her question is, what are the things that stand out on a CV? how to improve writing skills for college essay and such. Yeah, how to improve writing skills for college essay. So I'd like to elaborate on. I mean, I'd like to add a couple of questions of my own. When students, I've noticed that students who come from a science background, they don't, their writing skills aren't. I mean, it's a fact because they don't get to write a lot, so their
Yeah.
writing skills are not up to the mark. So isn't this like challenging for you to get them to write a personal statement? I mean, someone who hasn't written uh, let's say more than two paragraphs in 2 years, how do you get them to write a personal statement? So how exactly do you face these challenges?
It is difficult, and that's true science students, because not because they can't, because they're not used to it, because of
Yeah,
practice.
of course.
They find it challenging, and they have really good points, and their motivation to study is really good, but when you put that thought into paper and words and then structure and paragraph and an overall essay, they get a bit overwhelmed. So it does take longer with them. I tend to do more brainstorming and more drafts with them, so I give them more time, and I work with them in more and a greater number of drafts. So if a social science student needs 3 drafts, they probably will need 5. So I also prepare them for that early on. That if it's taking them longer, that's perfectly fine. How to improve college essay writing? The solution is to increase the amount of reading that you do, and good quality reading. I love
I
this.
think this is something you should start from AS. I mean, if you've decided to go abroad, then I think this is something that you should start doing from AS and should start reading newspapers, start reading good books, because they'll definitely you're gonna need good writing skills when you're writing a
Yeah.
personal statement.
And understanding kind of what's happening around you, build your general knowledge, build awareness of what's going on. And I really like the writing style of Reader's Digest. It's a little old style, but I really like the way they write. It's not big words, but it's written effectively. And good college essay writing is not about being a dictionary or a thesaurus at all. Actually, that's really bad college essays, because nowadays everyone has access. So you want to come across as easy to understand, right? And another really good tip for college essay writing is start early, have a greater number of drafts, and don't let everyone, the entire community, be reading your essay and giving you feedback. Because at the end, as they say, too many cooks spoil the broth. You get so overwhelmed. Not everyone's supposed to be giving you the right feedback, right? You should be going to experts. So working with a school teacher, working with a college counselor. Now, these are the right kind of people. Now, asking your aunt's big brother because he went to Cornell 30 years back is not going to help, quite honestly. So pick and choose effectively. Then the question was about CV. Can you repeat what the question about the CV was?
Yeah, what skills look good on a CV? Let me open it up again. But yeah,
Um,
what are the things
Skills,
that stand out on a CV?
you know what really stands out on a CV? Let's say if you're applying for your, um, should I answer this for someone applying for a job or for university?
No, no, this is the same student here. She's in AS.
Okay, so you know what really stands out in a CV is something that you haven't really mentioned elsewhere. So using the CV as an opportunity to show a different side that you haven't gotten a chance to. So if you've spoken a lot about, let's say, volunteering at an orphanage in your essays, right? And your school teachers writing out your grades, but maybe you run a blog which you single-handedly started and you really built the engagement up, then that is something you should put on your CV. If you tutored someone for free as a pro bono on your weekends, that is something right to write. So don't worry about it needs to be a great company name or multinational or the coolest internship of this year. It needs to be personal, it needs to be specific. So give numbers as much as you can, of quantify your impact. If you said I taught students, how many did you teach? How many hours a week? How many classes? So quantify it, say then the person reading it understands the context, and then whatever you say becomes actually effective.
All right, all right. Another question is that is IELTS necessary for students who have done O and A levels?
Usually they don't need IELTS for admission if they have an O level, I think minimum B in English.
In English language.
Having said that, for visas, yes, you do mostly need it.
All right. Is it helpful for me to take up a sport to maximize my chances of getting an IB on full ride?
Um,
I mean, we see this happen in movies a lot that uh, you have good basketball players getting a good scholarship because of their skill, because of how good they are in sports. So is that something they really look at?
You see, if it's a, I mean, if we're talking about getting into Ivy Leagues on a full ride through a sport, it can't be something you take up very late in your life. If we're getting there, it's something you should be doing for a very long time. You should be acclaimed. You should be a national winner or something,
I think you should already have a
international.
couple of achievements in that sport before you apply. I mean, before you apply to that university.
Sorry, can you repeat what you said?
I'm saying it's definitely important to have a couple of achievements in that particular sport to make you
Yeah,
stand out.
yeah.
Right?
You need to be at the pinnacle of like doing really well within it for you to be considered for a full ride. ऐसे नहीं होता that just because you're playing multiple sports, you get that. But if you've been playing for a long time and you think there's potential, then of course work harder to get better at that. Join more, championships, or of course it'll be beneficial. Ivy Leagues have a lot of sports teams which they highly fund, and they have these really competitive intercollegiate competitions, and they look, that's a really big priority for them. But again, be authentic. If it's something you're interested in, if it's something you've been doing, then you can't take it up 6 months before and expect to, that to be the reason for your scholarship.
Is the number of subjects I take in O levels important? I've got 8, and if I get all A's, will it help in university?
Usually we do tend to take 7 to 10 subjects usually in our O levels.
In our O levels, yeah.
Sorry?
In our O levels. So her
Yeah.
question is the number of subjects I take in O levels important? I've got 8, and if I get all A's, will it help?
Yeah, of course, if you're applying to competitive universities, having all A's will help. And 8 should be enough. People take between 7 to 10. But then again, if you're applying to university, by then you need your AS grades. Your AS grades also need to be up to par with your O-level grades. If you have all A's, then and you're aiming for really top-tier universities, then your AS subjects and grades need to be of that level too. But it's not just grades. Usually, there has to be something other than grades that you're doing if you're aiming high.
All right. Another question is from. Actually, we're getting a lot of questions, so I'm trying to filter out the ones that I
Really?
think
Are we?
are repeating. Yeah, I mean, I'm like overloaded with questions, so I'm like running filters in my head. के चलो ये question 2-3 दफा
And
आ
are you
चुका है, तो
seeing
चलो
them on your YouTube or your Instagram?
No, I'm seeing this on my Instagram, on my screen right now. So I've opened up my Instagram on my laptop here because it's kind of different to keep. I mean, it's kind of difficult to keep up because वो एक question आता है तो एक और आ जाता है, वो ऊपर चला जाता है.
So then you're seeing it on your laptop.
Yeah, I'm seeing this on my laptop. Yeah.
I've done tons of Instagram lives, but I never realized I could do that. I usually take them from my phone, and it gets really overwhelming.
Yeah, actually, this is my first Instagram live with actually someone. I mean, I've done like live stories and stuff, but this is like the first time I'm actually interviewing someone.
Oh, wow.
So another question is that what should I take for data science? I think the answer to that is pretty straightforward. Computer science? What do you think?
Yeah. The data science, computer science, and maths should be the key.
Computer science and maths. Yeah. So data science is something that's relatively new, right?
Yeah.
So do people come to you when they're, I mean, is this something people show a lot of interest in?
I actually get the most interest in something slightly similar, which is business analytics for their masters, which is data science and business together. That's really on the rise because a lot of companies that are going digital or technology companies actually really want business analytics. It's like data science and business. So more than data science, I've seen an interest in that. But data science is literally computer science with technology. That's kind of what it is.
So if you were to like at this point say that this is something that's really, this is something that's become mainstream and a lot of people are showing interest in this. So what would you say?
Business analytics.
Business.
That's the new thing.
Okay. You mean it's the next big thing?
Yeah, I think so. Because I mean, the world's biggest companies right now are technology companies, and what they are looking for is kind of what's setting the tone of the entire job market. Anything digital skills oriented, really, not just business analytics. Anything digital skills, everything's going online. Project, remote learning, project management, collaboration, cloud computing, these kind of things.
All right. So we have another question from Vanya Big, and again, it's a very long question. So she says, I want to know if I can pursue A levels privately and still hope for a really good, possibly fully funded scholarship abroad. I don't seek Harvard or anything, but do people doing A levels from schools have a better shot? In this case, I mean my IGC, SC, O level results are all A stars, A's, and B, and 1B. I do not expect to score anything lower than A in A levels. I've volunteered at a few places, and I have even had a business startup once. I'm quite good at debates and winning people. Lol. I meant my interviews, etc., could go great. The main concern is privately, I'm also able to freelance with school I want. So do I need to join a school? Sorry, and again, she's apologizing because it's getting a bit long. But I think in short, her question is that is it really important to join a school when you're applying for universities abroad? I mean, is this something that gives you an edge over people who haven't done their A levels from a school and they've done it privately? And she's saying she does have a lot of extracurriculars in her. I mean, she has taken part in a lot of extracurriculars.
You know, unfortunately, I think there is this unspoken bias of applying through a school based on two reasons. The first one, you have school counselors and teachers writing your recommendations, really strong recommendations. That's the one benefit. The second one, when you apply to universities, they do look at the name of the high school. And high schools that have been around there for a while do have a certain reputation because students from there come, they see them doing well, so they are aware that, okay, students from this high school are good. Again, these are really unspoken, tacit kind of opinions that I'm saying. These are not facts. But yes, it does matter. There's a certain reputation of a high school name, so they expect a certain kind of candidate. So it does add to someone's profile. And I have actually seen more students from A-level schools get into very competitive programs compared to those of private. However, CIE would never confirm this because then no one will ever do anything privately, right? They say, no, the British Council is there. I actually was on this show where it was me and Uzma Yusuf. She's the country director for Cambridge.
For Cambridge,
And
yeah.
I asked her a question where I said that, you know, there's so much uncertainty, policies keep changing, at least high schools are telling their students, but what about private students? You know, students ask me and I feel they're kind of left in the dark. So she said, no, British Council is there, that's their intermediary. But I don't see British Council being able to write recommendations for these students, right? Yes, it's there from an admin perspective, but from making their college applications more competitive, I personally don't think so. So it's very unfortunate that yes, they are at a disadvantage. I think so.
So I think if someone is planning to apply for university abroad, they should. It's in
If
their
they
best favor to
can,
join the school.
if they can, if it's financially feasible, if it's culturally appropriate, if it's, you know, something that they're okay with, I think it does make a difference. Especially if you're planning on being ambitious with your university applications, yes, you should.
Okay. So another question is that if a student doesn't have good grades in O levels, but if he gets good grades in A levels and a good SAT score, can he get a full ride scholarship? Yeah, I
Yes,
think
I
this is
know
a good
people.
question because
I know.
if you could just emphasize on how important are O level results and how important are A level results and how important is SAT. So I think this would answer a lot of questions that I'm getting right now.
Okay, everything is important at the end of the day. It's a very competitive world. Everyone wants scholarships. The world is full of eager beavers, right? Everyone's doing everything nowadays. So give 100% in terms of your hard work and honest hard work. You have to give 100%. However, what I've seen is that if you're applying to the US, the biggest and most important thing is your SAT. If you're applying to the UK, the biggest and most important thing is your A level grades. If you're applying to Canada, it is also A-level grades, not so much the SAT, right? So it really, the answer varies on what country you're targeting. In
And
Pakistan,
if you,
again,
let's say you're applying to LUMS, what about that?
yeah, so Pakistan, again, your SAT and A-levels both. Because IB alums are so competitive. I don't think we realize how competitive they are. We're too busy in the Yale and Harvard and Dartmouth. No, actually, IB alums and GIK are very competitive. You know, very smart people who get into great universities abroad cannot get into these universities.
Yeah.
So for
In fact,
Pakistani,
I think it's a lot easier to get into. I mean, not a lot easier, but I've seen people getting into universities abroad and failing to get into LUMS and IBM. So
yeah,
I
for
completely
sure,
agree.
for sure. So for Pakistan, it's both A levels and SAT. Now, the reason why I'm not saying O levels is anyone watching. It doesn't mean you don't study for your O levels.
Yeah.
Of course, big
Please.
clarification. As I said in the beginning, it's a combination of everything. They want consistency in your academic achievement, right? So if you were like all D's and E's, and then suddenly you're A and like a great SAT, they still will be like, what happened there, right? Or so थोड़ी consistency होनी चाहिए, but you need to look at everything. If you want to increase or maximize your chances, you need to give your hard. You need to work hard in all aspects. So studying is important.
Acha, one question that I get a lot is that students are like, okay, so I'm giving these many subjects from school, and these are the subjects I plan to give privately, and I got a bad grade in this, so I plan to give a retake. So what ends up happening is that they have multiple results. So is that something that is frowned upon? Is that something that they question when you're applying abroad, or they're okay with it?
They're okay with it, but the reason why people usually do it is they're applying to the UK and they need to meet an offer. So they take more, okay, they increase their chances of being able to meet that offer. So a lot of people take accelerated subjects in the last year, so they increase like the chances to meet that offer. But that's usually the reason. But again, it's not something I personally think everyone should do, as it gets very jumbled and very, very overwhelming for students to manage.
Right. One question from Anam is that is psychology, sociology, and maths or law a good combination for psychology? I think you've already answered that, that you
Yeah,
don't really need to have psychology in A levels if you want to pursue a career in it, but if you
yeah.
do, there's no harm.
Yeah, but this is a good combination, especially with maths, because there are a lot of experiments in data handling and statistics and studying psychology. Maths would help them.
Okay. 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 I'm getting a lot of questions. Okay, let me know when you're like you're done. Okay, maybe we can have this session again or something. But
Yeah, for sure. I'd be happy if you want a follow-up session, because these are really
yeah,
important questions.
yeah, definitely. So I think let's take one last question. This is a very
Sure.
interesting question. So, and again, I apologize to all the students that I couldn't pass on your questions, but we both plan to do another session. So,
I'll be
inshallah.
happy to be back for sure. I think this is a great collaboration. I've never done this with a teacher in this space, and I'm realizing there's a lot
Yeah,
of
likewise.
overlap of
Likewise.
this is so important.
Yeah,
So I
our
think we should do
audience here, you're right.
we should do a inshallah
Definitely.
follow up.
Yeah, so that's a big
And
relief
I'll try that
for
my
the students
tripod
who are
doesn't break mid session the next time.
working. Say, Asha. So here's Alyssa. She says, I'm having trouble choosing a major. I want to be a stylist, own an event management company, and work in the hotel management sector. Would business marketing be a good fit? She hasn't mentioned whether she's in A levels or undergrad, but I'm assuming that uh, I think she's in A levels.
She wants to own an event management company, wants to be a stylist and
Work in the hotel management sector.
business management, and she wants to study business management, right?
No, she's asking, would business marketing be a good fit?
Actually, I'm very proud of her. That's a very, very
She's
good
in A
choice.
levels. She just mentioned she's in A2.
So, what's her name?
Alyssa.
Alyssa is really smart. I'm not even like this is a very good choice. Business marketing is probably the best thing she could study. There's nothing better than that, because it overlaps the key skill set for all three. Because whatever she does, it would be a business. B, there would be a lot of marketing that she would need to do, a lot of client-facing marketing, and a lot of service experience and customer experience. So I think business marketing is pretty ideal.
All right. So again, like I said, I'm getting a lot of questions, but I think we should call it a wrap. What do you say? And
Sure.
let's plan another session. I think this will be very fruitful for both
Yes.
of us and for the audience also.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
thank you so much for taking our time, and I look forward to doing this again. So
Likewise, thank you for this opportunity, and thank you to everyone who sent questions in. And inshallah, we should do more of this together. This was actually really fun for me, and I think it's so important to
likewise.
create this kind of content. I think
Yeah,
it's
and
really
I should
important.
mention to everyone who's watching, go check out her Instagram page. And I think if you're planning to apply abroad and if you're confused about what subjects to take and stuff, so do follow her on Instagram. You can book a session also, right? You can
Yes, you
book a
can go to
session
the
with you.
link in the
Yeah.
bio, and you can book a session, and it's completely online. And likewise, to anyone from my page watching, do check out Saad's page. I saw your YouTube. I'm actually going to ask you some questions on some of the software and stuff that you do, because the
Yeah,
whiteboard where
I've been
you take
planning to make a
videos.
video on that, to like give away all my secrets, because I get a lot of questions from teachers that what
Yeah,
software are you using, what how exactly are you writing on the screen and stuff. So I've been planning to make a video, but it's easy to make educational videos like when I'm teaching something, but these kind of videos they're very difficult
yeah,
to make, and
yeah.
with my schedule, it's very difficult to take out
No, but
time.
you're
But
doing
yeah,
great
I plan
content
to do it.
creation.
Thank you so much. So thank you, Lisa.
My pleasure.
Look
Take
forward
care.
to
Bye
seeing
bye,
you again.
everyone. Bye bye.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.